Thank you so much, Jeff, for joining us, CG Tantra, for the Siggraph Asia 2012 in Singapore. It is an honor to have you for our readers.
Sure.
And please tell us something about ACM Siggraph from the conception, from the time that you have been part of it, and what's the vision and what it stands for.
Sure. So I actually started with Siggraph as a student myself, graduate student. Went to my first Siggraph in 1987, I think it was. I've missed one since then, at least in the North America. This is my third Siggraph Asia. I went to the original Siggraph Asia here in Singapore, and was in Hong Kong last year, and of course here. Siggraph, has grown a lot over that period of time. And one of the things I think it's important that people kind of miss in terms of Siggraph is that Siggraph is really a special interest group on computer graphics and interactive techniques. And that at this current stage, computer graphics has really developed very much. It's very much a commodity in a lot of areas. There's still research going on, a number of different areas that have come out of things, computational photography, things in stereo, augmented reality, which is really moving more into the interactive techniques. And actually, we think that actually is one of the bigger growth areas at this point, is taking the technology and things that have been developed over the years in computer graphics and applying it for the interactive techniques. The augmented reality is just the prime evidence of that, about how it's going in. The other thing is, I think, the growth of where computer graphics has gone and the fields that it's now going into. It's really becoming a part of just everything you do in life, in terms of from archaeology to geographic information systems to mobile phones to tablets to everything. It's really, that is an outgrowth of what's come about.
Yes.
And so that's kind of where we see that continuing a little bit. The augmented reality, interactive techniques is that. And I think from Siggraph, what we'd like to do also is to find how can we help in terms of bringing either communities together, companies, students. So, for example, I went to a panel session today where we had people from academia that are trying to graduate students in animation in different areas, and on the same panel we had the industrial people, the likes of the animation companies, and what are they looking for, and how do they, and have them communicating. And so I think that's something where Siggraph may have a nice role, is trying to bring some of these communities together. For example, there's ideas of how do we take companies that are looking for, they have problems, they need solutions for that. How can we tie them in with academics who may have solutions to those problems? How do we help students become properly educated, or finding areas for them to go? How do we look at training issues which are common across lots of companies? Big companies do their own, smaller companies and little companies can't afford to do that. So what are possibly common things that happen across? Not that we'll probably do it, but are there standards that should be out there? Are there areas where we can help basically broaden and enlarge the community, so as we move into other countries that are growing, such as India, the market's there, they're a large country, things are going to be growing there too, because they're up and coming industrial. On this panel I saw today was a company that was from Vietnam, which is very growing technically. They're not at the same level as others, but they want to get there.
Right.
And
right.
I think that's an area where Siggraph could help.
Right. So when Siggraph Asia started off, with ACM Siggraph coming to Asia, how do you think over the last 4 years that the Siggraph Asia has grown, and what is the vision for Siggraph Asia?
So, there's no doubt that it has been successful in terms of technical activities and things. It's well recognized that the academic quality of the papers and everything else is on par with the other Siggraph conference. We've instituted basically the same policies, the same rules, the same processes. And so from that level, everyone, I think, at this point has very well recognized that the quality level is there. There are differences in Asia in terms, because as we move particularly to different countries, there's different strengths and interest in various areas. Japan very much more interested in robotics, emerging technology, very strong, are always a strong component of our emerging technology wherever we are.
Even in the North American
Yes.
markets. Yes.
Oh, and even I went to a Laval Interactive conference that was in Southwest France. Still had a lot.
Yeah.
So it's a very much there. Korea, much more gaming interest and things of that sort. I think in Singapore, it's more multimedia interest in those things. Hong Kong, it's very similar in the sense of a larger mix of different kinds of companies using things. But it's as you look at it too, because of the growth of computer graphics, it's in advertising. It's not just your entertainment necessarily, but it's in advertising. It's in industrial companies where people are designing products, and now you don't build it, you do a 3D model of it, and then maybe you do a quick design using one of the 3D modelers now that you can build a quick 3D model.
Yes, printing, 3D
printing. 3D printing. So there's a number of those kinds of things. But I think Asia's going to keep growing. You're seeing more animation happening in Asia. You're seeing companies build new facilities. I don't remember what is another one of the houses in this panel I was in announced that they're putting a facility into Shanghai, and I think you're going to continue that growth. Certainly, as the Chinese have more and more access and it's developed, they already have a very large computer graphics community within China, and I think it's going to keep growing. So I think there's going to be much more demand, and I think we're going to, we'd like to be there and growing with it.
As someone who has been a visionary and part of ACM Siggraph Group, with the current economic scenario and the changes of computer graphics and 3D no longer actually being either a too expensive a toy or too cheap a toy, because with a small handheld device you can do anything that we could do in an expensive machine, whereas in an expensive machine the budgets have become so low that it has become too difficult for studios to do it. So it's more of a situation where it's in both hands. So where do you think we are headed in the computer graphics industry?
Yeah, so certainly we've seen the change from the very large hardware companies, the Silicon Graphics and Sons and all of these that we used to spend millions of dollars on their equipment. And now, I've just built a facility myself at work, which is this large 3x2 display panel of 50-inch displays, very large, and done this for easily under $100,000, where in the past I was buying SGI machines that couldn't do the same thing for $500,000. So definitely that's changed, because now I'm driving something with one PC that used to take a very large SGI system. I think that it's changing the markets, of course, what's happening, and so since it's become a commodity, that's where I think where we want to play is possibly be more of a place where you want to know about computer graphics. Siggraph might be the place to come, because if you'd like to know about graphics hardware, well, Siggraph sponsors, there's a computer graphics hardware conference, a small conference that Siggraph sponsors, and maybe we'll pull information back from there. Animation conferences, there's a symposium computer graphics. Well, that's another sponsored conference. We'll take the information from there. And so Siggraph can be this place where people can come to get information in a wide range of areas, to maybe figure out where it is they do want to go. But if they're interested in the totality of where you are in various areas, I'd like to see us really branch out and have information from scientific visualization, from medical imaging, from the very it's branched out so widely. There's no one conference that can cover it all itself and gather content for all of those things. And so my expectation is that we are likely going to want to interface in with all of these other small conferences to be able to be a place where people can get information. Of course, we're still going to have the hardware, not just hardware research, but software research and those kinds of pieces. but it's growing in so many areas.
Yes,
that-
I guess the Symposium of Apps is an example of the
Yes.
same as well.
Yes, and what's interesting, Symposium of Apps actually was kind of one of these interesting programs where this was a new program that happened here. It actually has metamorphed in North America
Right.
to be the mobile apps program,
Right.
and I think you'll see. And again, that's just kind of an indication there was very large interest here. It showed that there's a lot of interest in that. Let's do it here too.
Right.
And I think you'll continue to see the briefs that was started here. Well, that's a difference. That's not being done in North America. They're still doing sketches, and so it's just and that's good for us to be able to see these different approaches.
We have Siggraph Asia in Hong Kong again in 2013. What's the agenda over there? What's new that one should expect out of Siggraph?
It's kind of hard to predict it a little bit. I think you're going to continue to see more things with mobile devices and augmented reality is my expectation, because now if you've got so much power in your hand,
Yes.
on the emerging technology, they have I think it's called second screen. Right,
yes.
Which is where now you can just take this device and it's in the real world
Yes.
and doing things, and people are carrying that. I've got my iPad with me, and it's here. I love it, but it's still a little awkward to use when I'm walking around on a street or
Right.
someplace else. But phones are doing that, and
Yeah.
so you're seeing that technology into the phones, and I think that's where we're going to see a lot more. And Asia has always been a little more forward-looking in the mobile devices and those types of things, I think, and I think you're going to continue to see that.
Great. Well, any last messages that you would like to send across to the community in India, especially,
Sure.
and try to drive people to maybe form more chapters. The advantages of having
Sure.
chapters.
Sure. So from our chapter community, really typically have been very locally grown people that usually have gone to Siggraph and said, wow, this is really great, we'd like to see more, and try and find communities that typically have grown out of either academic or people that are in houses that want to get together and do that. That's really how I came up in doing this. It's a great opportunity to find out what others and to congregate together and learn. It's really been a very good training ground. It's also really been the place where Siggraph grows from. You would, the number of people and volunteers within Siggraph that have come out of the chapters community is just untold. I mean, myself, Scott Lang, there's just innumerable people, because it's a great training ground to come up and do that, and you learn the interest, and now you find out what Siggraph's about, and you can go back to your community. I think there's particularly interest in growth in India. I know ACM particularly has an initiative in India. We've been talking with them about what other kinds of things we could do. Are there places that we could help? Certainly, we're open to being involved. I know there's some things that we're trying to do a little more globally. One of the things, like traveling our Computer Animation Festival, our goal is to try and take that on the road at the high def level and move it around, not just send a little state, but take it around, have the cafeterias come around, try and promote some of the activities, and also certainly have integration or cooperation with any of the activities in India. So, for example, in any of these activities or conferences and things that you have, I think we'd be more than open to try and work with you and try and collaborate. The emerging technology area, for example, we've already been approached through FMX and Laval Interactive with Siggraph Asia, looking at maybe there is something to do, because we're all interested in this area of doing something on a more worldwide basis.
Yes. Thank you so much, Jeff, for your time, and we look forward to see Siggraph soon in India. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, Jeff.
Okay.